The sixth installment in the VHS franchise is taking us back to the 80s. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Just like the past couple VHS films, we have 5 new directors with brand new tapes to showcase in this awesome anthology horror series. Our new directors include Mike P. Nelson, who helmed the Wrong Turn remake in 2021. I highly recommend it if you have not seen it, so underrated. Gigi Saul Guerrero, who is known for Culture Shock and Bingo Help. Natasha Kermani, who did 2020's Lucky. Scott Derrickson, who directed a Hellraiser film all the way back in the day, Sinister and the Black Phone. He also did Doctor Strange, but that's not really a horror movie, so why mention it? In fact, why am I keeping this in the video? And another absolute legend, David Bruckner, who also did a Hellraiser film, hilariously enough. David Bruckner has a bunch of other great credits to his name though, like The Ritual and The Night House. Getting into a non-spoiler review of VHS 85, I gotta say, out of all of the VHS movies, this is one that you genuinely don't want to get spoiled. With this movie, I highly recommend you go into it blind, because it has some really interesting twists and turns and plays with the format big time. Y'all thought VHS 99 was set up in a weird way. You don't even know what's coming with VHS 85. In my reviews for VHS 94 and 99, I praised both of those films for consistency. I think all of the skits in those maintain a certain level of quality that makes it a fun time throughout. I will say some of the sketches in this one did not land for me, but I think there are 2 segments in VHS 85 that could be top 5s for the entire franchise. VHS 85 also hits on the nostalgia of the 80s really well, not in a way that's like super in your face, but a little more in the background, which is what I really appreciate. It's more so in like the way the characters look, the way it's shot. There's a certain creature design in one of the segments that gives me this picturesque 80s outlook, and I really like that. What's really nice about this film though is the main attraction is not the nostalgia. It's the great stories that are being told here. Well, mostly. I really like that they got relevant topics from the year 1985 to be the focal point of some of the stories here. Like for instance, Gigi Saul Guerrero's segment focuses on a real earthquake that happened in Mexico City during this same year. Although VHS 85 may be my least favorite from this new run, it still maintains a high level of quality. With my criticisms aside though, VHS 85 is another killer entry in this franchise. Just not the best from this new run. 94 still takes home that gold all day, every day. Hail Ratma! Alright, we gotta talk spoilers about this bad boy at some point, so let's just get right on into it. Go no further if you don't want any spoilers for VHS 85. Trust me, this is one you don't want to get spoiled. So starting off with Mike P. Nelson's No Wake, I love this one for a lot of reasons. It's very clearly inspired by the likes of Pet Sematary and The Raft from Creepshow 2, which is like one of the most underrated segments from the entire Creepshow franchise. I'm not crazy about Creepshow 2, but The Raft is the reason I watched that film. It was cool to see a very Stephen King inspired story here that also has a shocking twist later on in the film. I was a little disappointed watching the first half of this and being like, really? That was the end? That's all we're gonna see? Even though there is a wraparound segment in this movie, which we'll get to a little later, you get to see the rest of the skit like about an hour later into the film. Not only was that a great change up to subvert expectations, but it also shocked me because it starts playing the next segment and I was thinking to myself, oh, this must be the start of the new segment, but then the squirt gun comes back from this one and I'm like, oh shit, oh my god. What's great about this being inspired by Stephen King is I also feel like it was written in a similar way to how Stephen King writes a lot of his books. In Stephen King's On Writing, the guy talks a little bit about how his ideas usually form when he takes 2 good ideas, smashes them together into a great idea. This feels a lot like that. Like you have this cool idea of having this lake that keeps people alive even after going through severe trauma, but then you're also mixing it with the idea of these gun nuts who want to kill people and make snuff films. Both of those ideas are good on their own, but coming together it makes something really special here. And I love that we separated the 2 things, which then comes together at the end. I don't know, this is just phenomenal. Excellent job to Mike P. Nelson. This is one of my favorite VHS segments ever. Moving into Gigi Saul Guerrero's God of Death, I really appreciated this one for having so much culture in it, and also a real life thing that actually happened in 1985, an earthquake in Mexico City. In a recent interview with Bloody Disgusting, Gigi Saul Guerrero talks a little bit about how she grew up in Mexico City, and she learned at a young age that the city was sinking due to the fact that it was built on Aztec land. She goes on to talk about how these famous cathedrals have these giant pendulums that apparently show how much the city has sank over time. That's horrifying to me. I really love the origin of this story. The characters may not be much to write home about in this one, but there is some funny moments with them involving a fart, because listen, farts are funny. I don't care what anyone says. There's nothing like an effective fart, man. It always works, like a kick in the balls. It's always gonna be kind of funny. There's a twist at the end of this one that I don't feel like is necessary, but it does result in a really cool final shot. One character you've been following this entire time just gets naked, because it, why not? Pulls out this one dude's heart and gives it to this Aztec god, and it's like, what the f is going on? I love this. It's crazy shit, and I really enjoyed it. Natasha Kermani's Techno God is one of the most abstract VHS segments we've ever got, but I still really liked it. In the same vein as a Skinamarink or the Outwaters, Techno God gives us just enough to care about this character that we're following this whole time, and then we see her viciously get ripped apart in the technological digital world. This one's really artsy and weird, but I like artsy and weird. Fight me. It also has a strong message about technology that I really enjoyed. The name of the VR headset that our main character is using is called an iPhone, and it's like, okay, yeah, we get what you're trying to say. She's saying to get off of this thing, and look at that. VHS 85 is my background too. I really liked the digital creature in this segment too, which is something I've never said before on this page, but it works in context of this story. With that as well, you do get practical gore, which is like the best of both worlds. There you go. From legendary horror director Scott Derrickson, we got Dreamkill, which is basically just the black phone, but it's still cool. This comes from Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill, the same people behind Sinister and the black phone, so it's going to have that grimy, disgusting style about it that I absolutely love. Even though, yes, this is very similar to the black phone, they do it a little differently, and well, hot take in my opinion, I think they might have did it a little better. It's a procedural story, which is a hard word for me to say, and focuses much more on the whole element of like your dreams predicting the future. There's some great performances here from Scott's son, who is one of the main characters in this, and a Scott Derrickson mainstay, James Ransone, who is so underrated and I can't believe is not in more things. A really solid tape from Scott Derrickson, definitely one of the better ones of this entire film. Mike, I absolutely love your segment so much, but I think my real #1 favorite of this entire movie is this Alien Boy wraparound segment from David Bruckner. I was almost all the way through VHS 85, and something that was going on in the back of my head at this point in the film was, man, I really enjoy this, but there's no creepy creatures or crazy practical effect that like blew me away, just like all the other films. But then we got to the David Bruckner segment. For the first time in VHS history, the wraparound segment may be my absolute favorite from this one. Throughout the entire movie, we've been cutting back to this documentary about these doctors who found this strange boy who can't get away from the TV. The kid is slowly melting and turning into this crazy creature the entire time. They have like all these people in like hazmat suits going and swabbing the guy, and they're like testing the samples. But the ending is when it goes into overdrive and turns into a goddamn monster movie. I loved the concept of this creature because it's essentially taking that picturesque nostalgia of what it was like to be a kid in the 80s and turning that into a creature. So creative from Mr. David Bruckner. Hats off to you, sir. This and the Mike P. Nelson one I think were my absolute favorites from this whole movie. Wow, holy shit, this was good. With a plotline that's surprisingly similar to The Fly 2, a very underrated David Cronenberg sequel, which another thing I've never said before, but it was also a little darkly funny, which I appreciated. When the segment really starts at the end of the film, the documentary ends and they say, oh, you know, we can't show you the actual attack sequence because that's way too much for modern audience, and then it cuts and then bam, we're watching the footage. Throughout the entire wraparound segment as well, we've been watching this kid watching aerobics on TV, which is another 80s staple that I love that they got to involve in this movie. The final shot of the segment is the boy in full creature form now, playing with the dead bodies, making them do the aerobics on the screen. This reminded me a lot of Friday the 13th Part 4 with the guy that's like jerking off to the aerobics videos. Really weird shit. This creature is based off of a young boy that's going through puberty. I think you can get where I'm going with this. I totally see what they were trying to do here though, and I really appreciate it. No surprise that David Bruckner absolutely killed it with this one. Overall though, I give VHS 85 a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed this film, but I do feel like 99 and 94 were just a slight step above this one. It's not even that any of the segments were bad necessarily. I just feel like I was blown away a lot more by some of the segments in 94 and 99, where the ones here are still really good, just not better than Ratma. Or Flying Lotus's segment from the previous film, which is one of my favorites, if not my absolute favorite from the whole franchise. Your boy loves some gross shit, that's why I love this franchise so much. Punk rock, gross practical effects, it's everything you could possibly want in a horror movie. My criticisms aside though, this new run of VHS films have been phenomenal. All three of them did not disappoint at all. I think I speak for most of the fans of this franchise when I say, we want more tapes! Bring us VHS 7 next year! Fingers crossed. What did you guys think about VHS 85 though? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this brand new review of VHS 85. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content in the future. Please consider supporting me on Patreon as well. The link for that is in the description below. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.